Alright, time for another draftphysics.com video presentation. Alright, communication on physics, subject. It's I can't get people to stay on the subjects. So, I'm thinking the only way to do this is to try to create little tiny videos on each little subject and see if you can get people to acknowledge, first acknowledge that the history of kinetic energy is really bad science. So at least we understand there's reason to doubt the theory. It's not very solid, okay? Then you point out how the evidence is just horrible. We don't have these outstanding experiments that just demonstrate overwhelming, and so nobody could doubt it, blah, blah, blah. None of that exists. And then there's a real problem that if you, take the models, the two separate models, and drive them, move them through a scenario, you can see that they're completely incompatible, because if you believe in kinetic energy and destroy momentum, you create a paradox. If you do vice versa, you create a paradox. That one of them has to be right alone, and one of them has to be rubbish. And it's just the way it is, frankly. So it is an important question, and if you don't have evidence, then you can't sit there and say the subject is closed, we've proven it, because you really haven't. Ugh. And anyway, so I've attempted to have this conversation. To placate the people whose time is so precious they just can't endure an argument that goes on any longer than 10 minutes or 15 minutes. I've made 15-minute videos, which I would like to have responded to. I'd like to have the points made in the video pointed out how there's an error. There's mistakes in the video somewhere. That's what's stated can't be true because a certain experiment proves it not to be true. Not because somebody says it isn't true. So in this conversation, because nobody will have the conversation in a rational manner, that is, see, at least Hofstadter would make response videos. And often his response videos were actually on the subject. And so there isn't any Hofstadter anymore, so there's no one making videos that are on the subjects. That are actually responses to what has actually been said. And instead there's just a bunch of rags talking, a bunch of, crap. That's all there is. So me and Pyrrho can't communicate in person because Pyrrho constantly changes the subject and just becomes a shouting match because he will not stay on the subject. And so that's just sort of pointless. Unless there's a mediator to stop him from, just going on and on about crap that couldn't have anything to do with the actual subject, there's no point. And I have no interest in even saying statements I just said. I mean, I have no interest in talking about how lousy Pyrrho is at communicating, in terms of communicating as something other than a propagandist. Where he actually interact and debate and actually stay on the points. Like in a debate, he would be pretty horrible because, yes, he would just keep changing the subject and tell some story about his grandmother. All right, so I make videos, and the videos have points in them, and I'm pleading with people to make arguments relevant to those points. Now, instead, they're quote mining my 10 years of videos or 15 years of videos to find anything they can find to distort and pervert and to say this is what my argument is, when clearly I'm pointing right to my argument. It's right on the website, 3 videos. Those are my arguments. Okay, what I argued 2 years ago isn't what I necessarily am arguing today. So they don't want to play by those rules. So there's no, in my opinion, there can't be any rational conversation, unless the rule is that you have to respond to the person's actual points. So if they would make actual points, I could respond to them. Now, through this process, right, there's been, this whole process of this really horrible interaction in sloppy little text comments and all this other crap, and, nobody being accountable, a bunch of trolls and a bunch of sock accounts, a bunch of people who have no accountability. There's been proposed that there's some kind of kinetic energy theory called the 1.4 theory. Stephen Bro is even calling it the 1.4 kinetic energy theorem. there is no theorem. There is no. It doesn't exist as a physics concept in any of conventional physics. And now they're established it as some kind of truth I have to disprove, when it doesn't even exist as a truth that I have to disprove. I mean, it's gotten that ludicrous. So again, it's me on the defensive. I'm never allowed to be on the offensive. But is there any evidence that I am in any way not providing opportunity for the conversation? My 15-minute videos don't have any pyrrho insults in them. How come he can't respond to those? I mean, what's the big deal? 15-minute video. Okay, well, anyway. So, I'll play, this first part of his video isn't really about anything. He's just doing his little technology thing. But he titles the video, i.e. 2021 Kinetic Energy Experiment. This isn't going to be about any kinetic energy subject. I mean, look, he's got this metaphor. Life is a river. Ideas are chemicals. Discussions are chemical reactions. Blah, blah, blah. This isn't going to be about anything. So this is part of the problem. I mean, he can't even define subjects correctly. I mean, why would he call this video, which I'm sure it's just not going to have anything about kinetic energy in it. It's certainly not going to have anything that's established in any way to be a truth about kinetic energy. So anyway, let's see what it does. But I'm just saying, if people are incapable of, again, if it's just this time thing, they're not willing to invest any time in the conversation, then fine. Okay, I'll try to make the videos as concise as possible. But please, if you're going to respond to the video, respond to the video. Play it and address the points made in the video.
I got sort of, I don't know what to call it, reverse catfished or something into...
So he's got reverse catfished because this JPG guy saw that I'm asking specific questions. Apparently he saw that the questions probably should be answered because they seem like pretty good questions. I'm making an assertion. It's either right or wrong. Where can we find the evidence of the right and wrongness? And Pyrrho finds that offensive. So this is a guy who, who'll type 17 comments on your video, little one-sentence, one-liner crap, and he finds it offensive that somebody would ask him a question because he finds it an interesting question, clearly. I mean, he's not asking the question because I sent him to go ask the question. Okay, he's asking the question because he's saying, look, no one will answer these questions. Well, will you answer them? Yeah, that's what he's saying. He's not doing anything more than that. And somehow this is a suspicious deed. Reverse catfished. It's some sort of plot. Ugh.
Physics discussion with Gary again. So somebody was asking me, hey, what about these questions? And I thought they were asking me from their own interest, like things that...
So, again, I mean, he doesn't follow any of this context, or he's not really interested in this subject very much, and that's another one of, the little faults you could argue that, drove Holiday insane is, Pyrrho doesn't take any of this very seriously.
They were confused about from Gary's system, and I answered him a few times, and then lo and behold, I ended up finding out that this person's just carrying...
So he didn't answer a few times. He evaded every time. So, that's the real truth of it. Okay, the answers were not answers. The answers were, you didn't give me enough information. That only applies if, birds are green.
Questions in water from Gary, and it's like Gary could talk to me directly, except for he can't.
Yeah, I've made videos for 15 years, so yes, that's direct enough for me. I have no real interest in wasting time in a conversation where people end up just talking over each other. So I'd like to make my points, and you can make your points, and so there could be video exchanges. But somehow you can't do that because there's no link to your video. I've been making response videos the same way I've made response videos ever since the beginning. It didn't change any. The stupid link, on the video, response videos, a little category, never meant anything to me. It never had anything to do with what a response video was. I didn't need to have my link show up on the video for me to see it was important to make a response video. So the fact that you are totally disabled because there's no link, well, I don't know what to say. Is that's kind of mockable from my perspective. That would have anything to do with it. So I've made tons and tons and tons of videos, and you haven't in any way responded to those videos in any coherent manner. At least not in the recent times. Okay, maybe 2 years ago you made it some effort, but it was this much.
Try to bring up just stray random shit. I don't mind him calling me an idiot, but if it's stray and random.
I think that's stray random shit, and I think all of that's stray random shit, and it's not really in my videos, so you can keep arguing that somehow my videos are just insults of you, but frankly they're not. And 99% of the discussion or references to you are references to your garbage arguments, frankly.
I mean, it has nothing to do with physics. It's not going to make my view of physics right or wrong. Then it would, you'd have to be civil about those kinds of things. And not very civil, obviously, but...
Right, so we don't need to be, is my argument, okay? I really despise you now, okay? I've acquired a real distaste for your dishonesty, frankly. And it's so obvious, and it's so aggressive that, yeah, you've just lost all credibility from me, okay? But you are still a voice on the internet. You can do your little persuading people that you're being a credible character. That's the game we got to play. Everybody's got to stand up. They argue that Lincoln didn't have much of a voice. He didn't sound very good. Okay, but the guy he ran against was a little short guy who sounded great. But so we all have to fight in the world that exists, and that sucks. Okay, that deserve might not have anything to do with it, and all that kind of crap. But the fact is I want the arguments, okay, to be what matters. And if somebody else wants the same thing, then this shouldn't be an issue.
Within some boundary of civility. So I'm not going to do that.
Right, and I don't think you are within any boundary of civility. You haven't been from the very beginning of this conversation. Your attitude has always been shut up, you flat earther. It hasn't been any better than that. It's been absolute crap. I mean, I pointed out the history of this stupid theory. You deny the history. You deny the facts. It's perfectly reasonable for somebody to be very skeptical of this energy theorem because it doesn't have any grounding in a big pile of evidence. It's not a Darwinian theory that, the evidence is everywhere you look. Every rock you pick up, you find another piece of evidence for it. No, it's exactly the opposite. You have to go hunting very hard to find anything that even looks like it might be possibly evidence. It's so bad. And you won't even acknowledge that.
However, I did get drawn into this, and so here's the thing, because, I saw Gary saying something, about how unreasonable, because I told him some equipment he could buy. So this is...
No, so you're unreasonable because it's silly. First off, why do I have to prove something? Why don't you have any proof? If you had proof, I don't need any proof, right? Because I already lost the argument. So you don't need to provide any evidence of your theory, yet I have to provide evidence that your theory is nonsense. Now that's the God possession, okay? You're just doing what the God botherers do. I have to prove God is a silly, stupid, incredible, nonsensical, completely out of the realm of reasonable belief. Why should I have to go to all that work? Why shouldn't I just be able to say, you don't believe it for any good reason? The reasoning is, Mommy told me. Oh, okay, that's a great reason. Or they gave me free potato chips once, and so I love the Christians because they gave me a bag of potato chips when I was down on my luck. I mean, well, what the, this is horse shit as a standard. And even if it was my obligation to produce evidence, why the hell would I do it? Why wouldn't you get somebody who's actually a technician and has a laboratory? Why isn't that where experiments should be done? Is in places that are equipped to do the experiment? Why? What? We should do a bunch of amateur experiments? That's where good physics arises, is out of a bunch of amateur crap? No, even Faraday had a very nice lab. Oh, this is so stupid.
Going to be an equipment and a description of the experiment that could be done. Now, he will probably say, hey, Pyrrho should do the experiment then. You have to prove to me. I don't have to prove nothing to him. I don't.
Right. And so exactly. You don't have to provide any evidence that the 1.4 theory exists. You don't have to cite it. You don't have to have any references to it. You're just going to dogmatically tell me, well, that's what the kinetic energy theory says. Who says so? Where? So again, it's just like, again, it's okay for them to say Einstein invented entanglement and believed in it. It's okay to say that, even though it's not true. It's okay to say that Einstein rings completely are consistent with Einstein's theory, where Einstein said you could never see one because it'd be so damn thin. So let's just ignore all the truth and the facts, and let's just keep propagandizing for religion, because that's all this is.
Care if he believes in the physics that all the physicists do or not, really.
Okay, so all the physicists don't believe the 1.4 theory. That's clear. Now, they can't give me one clip of any professor ever saying this 1.4 theory. They all say kinetic energy is conserved. That's what they say. There is no 1.4 thing. So they say exactly the opposite. They argue for exactly the opposite. The conventional theory is exactly the opposite. So see the irony here? They are so now off the subject. See, I'm arguing with a completely different statement made by conventional physics. I'm not arguing with their with their momentum theories. I'm arguing with their kinetic energy theories. And here they are destroying the kinetic energy theory because to preserve their kinetic energy theory, and in doing so they're talking exactly the opposite of what professors say. And this makes sense to somebody? I mean, this makes sense to you people who oppose me. You think that's a really great argument for your side? You're doing a great job by attacking the very physics you're saying I'm wrong for attacking? Just too stupid. It's just so ironically insane, this circumstance. And it just demonstrates just how impossible it is to communicate with people. They just don't have any integrity. They're completely dishonest. That's why the world sucks, is because there just isn't an honest man walking on this planet. You have to be completely dishonest to say that's a great argument. The argument from let's just make up something, put it in the mouth of conventional physics, and now point out how you're arguing that point. When, no, I'm not arguing that point.
In terms of having to accomplish that. It's an interesting way to discuss, basic physics, which I do understand Newtonian physics, I think, pretty well, and it's fun to go through it.
So again, it's, I just don't think he understands when he says the word Newtonian physics. We all know already that they're trying to say that Newton said there was such a thing as mv squared when it was invented by his worst enemy. So again, I haven't had one acknowledgement yet that it was Newton's worst enemy that invented this theory, even though that's clearly a historical fact.
And find the places you get confused. I mean, I do enjoy it. It's not everybody's thing, but I do. Okay, comment. Oh, hey, Black Heavyweight. What do you mean by ideas or chemicals? Forgive me. Oh, that's just the drawing I done back there. This is just a metaphor. I think ideas are like chemicals, and that's why you have two persons.
So great. So he puts a theme behind his video, just overtly soliciting a distracting, useless conversation. That's just a drawing I did. It doesn't have anything to do with the subject of the video. Great idea.
Personalities can meet and be fine, and then two personalities can meet and have a big blow up all the time. And it's kind of like, because personalities and ideas are like chemicals. This was just something else I was drawing. I'm going to use this in general, but this was just already up there when I brought up the whiteboard night. Okay.
So he keeps changing the subject to chemical energy. He thinks in chemical energy there's proof of kinetic energy. So it obviously has nothing to do with the mechanical experiments we can see. Okay, and I've obviously already pointed out the simple way to understand the energy in chemistry is just to understand that the closer you put two electrons, the more energy you have. The further away they are, the less energy. So all you're doing is making chemistry that's bigger and smaller, and by making the atoms bigger and smaller, you're actually making them more or less energetic. And so the kinetic energy, the momentum, the energy of movement is in them, because the movements are more hitting of force between electrons. There's more force interaction the closer the electrons are to each other than if they're further away. And the more interactions, the more exchanges. And that's momentum. So yes, there's momentum in the chemistry, but we can't see it. So we have to use experiments where we can see it.
Good, I'd leave it. It's not what the video is about. The video is about... I'm going to bring up Chrome here. And it should say this. Here we go. In general, I want to use my whiteboard because I bought this little thing where, you know, I can draw with.
So he's again showing a stupid ad for a piece of shit that you don't actually get any of the parts shown in the picture. As if. And I've already shown Professor Lewin has one. Okay, the guy at Yale has one. They have a very nice one. They just haven't done the experiments we need. The ones where you say the ones they've done don't show the truth. So I showed Professor Lewin putting the one mass object here and the one mass object here, the same spring compression, and they both leave at the same velocity. And then he shows, well, if I have two masses here, and I do the same experiment, I get half the velocity here. Not 1.4, half. The velocity goes this way. Okay, this object goes half as fast. Same momentum, though, as this one. So this one leaves the same exact speed it left before. Same energy goes this way, same energy goes that way. And the clear implication is it doesn't matter how heavy I make this side will always do the same thing. And vice versa. Now, obviously, I could put nothing, okay, and that would change the center of gravity of the spring, so it will change it slightly. But it doesn't matter how heavy the object is on the other side. And it's always a conservation of momentum in that the same energy goes this way that goes that way. Always. But the object that doesn't move still absorbs the energy. The energy is vibrating it. It's in there.
The pen, and it's a monitor, and so it's much nicer to draw in an old kind of concept. So, but not in this one, as far as I know. As a matter of fact, let's just make this bigger.
All right, so let's understand. There's lots and lots of institutions, okay, lots of colleges on planet Earth, and they all have one of these devices. So instead of us all getting together and saying, look, we have some unresolved questions about kinetic energy, we honestly would like to see some certain experiments done to prove or disprove a point. And so we'll just have them have the spring on the surface, put the two mass object on the spring, and then put the one mass object on the spring and see if it's exactly what we would predict, which is, yes, it's the same momentum goes this way, so the half as heavy car will go twice as fast. Why should I pay hundreds of dollars, thousands really, to get the right equipment for the experiment? That would be silly.
Right. So here is how to prove that kinetic energy makes a prediction that can't be made with momentum.
Right, and so I should have to prove that, right? So they've had the theory for 350 years, and I have to do the experiment. The experiment, they didn't want to bother proving their own theory. So it's like I have to do the Eddington experiment to prove the Eddington experiment was rubbish. Because they won't do it. They won't repeat it. I mean, it's just so stupid.
What we need is some equipment. We need a track, car, a spring cart launcher, the track ends, and a wireless motion sensor. Okay, so
No, you need the electronics to plug the sensor into, and that's going to cost you $976. So good luck with this. When, of course, you could just buy an oscilloscope for less than that and do it yourself. You could make all of this stuff. You could buy it in some other form for 1/4 of the price that this company is selling it for. It's all just crap. And frankly, yes, and you could buy some other thing that's close enough for, 1/10 of the price.
So you buy these. This is $80 per meter. I'll answer questions at the end. I'm just going to go through this really quick because the whole point is I got sucked.
$80 per meter. $80 per meter, right? So to have a decent track, you're going to have at least 5 meters. So right there, you've got, whatever, $400 and something worth of shit track. And it's not even air track. It's just a fucking idiotic piece of aluminum.
tricked into this. I'm not going to answer this guy's questions anymore because, Gary can either talk to me under the rules that we could set.
No, yeah. What rules are we going to set? There's no point. We already showed that. The last conversation we had just was a shouting match for 15 minutes because you just kept talking over my points. You just kept changing the goddamn subject, so there was no conversation. There was no capacity to have a physics conversation because you won't stay on the subject.
Engagement or forget it. He acts like, why won't people just answer? It's like, well, it's clear. I degeneratively so, I'm willing to answer him, but
oh come on. So this is such not only did he evade the question, but he's evading having any kind of integrity at all here. Oh yeah, it was too much trouble because I was getting catfished, whatever the fuck that is. I won't answer the simple question.
I'm not going to talk about a million other things that have nothing to do with it that are just personal insults. If you want to understand the system that you're trying to disregard or misunderstand, then I can help you do it.
Yeah, so you could throw those digs are okay for you to throw in. So just more little shots, fine, and that's all it turns into. So instead of just talking about the subject, no, it's all this crap.
Good. But the whole point in that is that the whole idea is like it's incomprehensible, therefore my system is the better alternative. And if you try to comprehend it, well, you're undermining your own argument. So
I'm not arguing for my own system. I'm arguing your system is nonsense. My system doesn't even come into play. There's no my system here, beyond the fact that maybe I'm defending Newton. But even Newton didn't have a full picture of momentum. Clearly he had the kernels of it. MV. It's not that complicated. But clearly he couldn't in any way, in his a way, talk about how, yes, of course, the momentum goes down, all the way down. The little bits have momentum. Everything has momentum, and the momentum piles up. So you pile it up in the little bits, and that makes energy in a direction. And then that direction magnifies and magnifies and magnifies. I've compared it to magnetic domains. You line them up, and then something new happens when they're all lined up. Well, the momentum works the same way. It starts at the bottom and rises to the top.
I understand that. And this is more for the third parties just to understand. Look, here's how you could prove that kinetic energy makes the prediction. And if you launch something with a spring set to a certain power that's half as big, it's not going to go twice as fast. It's going to go the square root of 2 as fast.
Okay, and where is that theory? So, is this too complex a question? How many times now? I've asked it about 50 times now. But how many, 60 times, 70 times, 170 times? How many times do I have to ask the simple question? Do you have a single reference for this 1.4 theory, this square root of 2 theory? Where did this square root of 2 theory come from? Okay, that if I put a lighter object on a spring, it's only square root of 2. Does Professor Lewin say that? Do you have a single reference to some physicist saying that's how it works? Whose physics is this? This Einstein physics? Did Einstein believe that? Did Bohr believe that? Who believed this 1.4 thing? Because I can't find anybody who believed it. Can you just show me a physicist who believed it? Or did you just make it up?
So anyway, you need to buy these tracks. This is a meter, $80 per meter, so you probably need a couple meters. A meter would be enough, but, 2 meters.
No, it really wouldn't be anywhere close to enough.
It's going to be better. That's almost, 6 feet or more than 6 feet or a little bit less, whatever. It's around 6 feet, and that's enough, to...
A meter? Oh, okay. So, yeah, a meter's not 3 feet, but whatever.
I don't know, you could do it with a meter, but I put this as 2 of this, so that's 160. This isn't cheap, but remember, Gary says he'll pay $2,000 to talk about physics with someone that believes in mainstream physics.
Again, and this is for a completely inferior system, in my opinion, okay? This is still little wheels rolling on a track. This is hardly the best you could buy.
So, a few $100s to just prove them wrong.
It's not a few $100. So again, it's thousands of dollars. If you want to get you have to buy the electronics. That's like I said, that's going to cost you $900 right on the top. And then you have to buy all these superfluous little plastic pieces of crap that are way overpriced.
Be worth it. Take that off of the 2,000 and pay him $1,500 to try to deny.
Right, and again, to do what? So I should pay $2,000 because physics, that is, all these universities that care about the truth, won't do the experiment. Because they won't do the experiment, I should pay $2,000. So again, and you won't agree to, say, sign a petition. So if we make a little petition, and we send emails to universities and we all sign the little statement saying, yes, we'd like to see this experiment. It's kind of an important experiment in physics. Why don't we prove the kinetic energy theory? Let's produce some evidence to support it so we don't have to just say, we don't have to just insult people, who might say it's an inferior theory. It's not very scientific. It has a horrible history. Let's try to redeem it, and that won't work. So amateurs have to put together this crap to do this one simple, stupid, moronic experiment that already the answer has to be the answer because they all know the answer already. All the physicists already tell you the answer, and it's not going to be your answer. It's not going to be 1.4. They're going to say you have to conserve the momentum. That's one of the rules.
Your experiments. But anyway, so you need the track, you need a car. Those are only $60. Why so expensive? Well, this is a low friction thing, so it's a car that's not just on toy wheels. It's got bearings and stuff, so that it's very.
Oh, it's pretty toy. I'm sorry, it's pretty fucking toy. And obviously you can't put much weight on them, so you can't do various experiments because as you start increasing the weight, they become less and less effective. Just like an air track, you really can't put more weight on it without making the object bigger and bigger and bigger. So it's not really very ideal.
Low friction. You need an end to the tracks, right? And I'll show you in a second because what this is about. You need ends to the track. And the spring cart launcher.
I mean, obviously you don't need ends to the track. You could just put a little C clamp on it.
Now you can see with the spring cart launcher here, there's a hole in the end that you can, so you can launch so the spring cart launcher is just this thing. And you need that end to mount it. And this gets actually mounted on the cart. And this goes through the hole and the spring's on the other side. And you can pull it, shing. And
I was going, I'm saying I'm going to be surprised what he talks about in this video. And this is what he's talking. He actually thinks this is a great idea. To buy this off-the-shelf crap. I mean, I really didn't think this is what he was going to waste time on. Seriously, and think this is a seriously reasonable argument. That why wouldn't I just buy it from, like I said, maybe I can get it used. Maybe some university wants to get the new, modern, better version. Maybe they bought an air track and so they want to get rid of their little cars. I could just buy the crap on eBay.
Get it to fly off, right? And as you can see in here, this is the end. You got a meter of track here. We do 2 meters, and then there's this thing, the wireless motion sensor, which is we got the wireless one. This is their old product. You could buy that too, but then this one has Bluetooth and USB. You can hook it to a computer and get the velocities out of it. And that's $99. So all of those things together cost $406, a lot less than $2,000. And what you do is
so there's no electronics. The sensor will not do anything until you plug it in to something. So, and maybe if it's Bluetooth, maybe it will work with a piece of software. So you might be able to put some sort of software on your Android or something, and that'll work. Maybe. That's a maybe, though.
I guess you also have to buy some weights, right? Because you want the cart to also have more weight on it. So you want to be able to double the weight. So I leave that as a detail. You double the weight and see what the speed is when you launch it with the same spring. Right? Get a couple springs. I don't know if those are exactly the same. Yes, 3 different spring strings. So
$37 for 3 springs. Yeah, sure, I'm going to do that.
That's what you need to do. Costs $406, maybe. I just admitted some extra money to double the weight. To check the weights, you might want a scale, things like that. Way under $1,000, right? So
again, no electronics. So let's just point it out.
Just do that. All right, let's see. Neo-skeptic, what are your thoughts on vegan physics?
So what's the point, right? I mean, so this is another example. Like, he thinks this live shit is a good idea, and it's just a complete waste. These people aren't on the subject. It's just useless. Useless. I mean, it's just too stupid, right? What's the point? What are your thoughts on vegan physics? Like, that could make any sense. So this is obviously just whatever, Farley showing up again. Can you exist in a superposition of being both vegan and non-vegan at the same time? Oh, that's so interesting. And Mendham is the Deepak Chopra of philosophy and science. Yeah, I couldn't be more anti-religion and woo, but yeah, go ahead. You know, like, that makes real sense. 90% of my videos are defending the theory of evolution, and there's no free will and all that crap, and this is what people do. I mean, you're just like, what the fuck? Too fucking silly. And again, these are people arguing that humans have some sort of integrity. Like, there's something about them that shouldn't be nuked instantly by an alien. Like, aliens should come here and find something intriguing or interesting about human beings, when all they are is lying sacks of shit that have no integrity. I mean, just amazing.
Can you exist in a superposition of being both vegan and non-vegan at the same time? Mendham is the Deepak Chopra of philosophy and science. Sears says, Gary is still alive. All right, no comment.
Good. You should, but your comment really should have been, you know, I hate this planet, or what the fuck? Why even make videos? You're all fucking retarded. Who am I talking to?
I think that's that. All right. Cheers.
So instead of anything reasonable, it's just more crap about how amateurs should do all these experiments because amateur experimentation is really good. So you know, that sort of brings up, you know, this stupid other troll, the Godfrey asshole, made a comment somewhere where he says, "Why did you do your research?" You know, I've already talked about the guy who did the experiment with the, you know, the 5-inch telescope and, you know, 4-inch telescope, whatever the hell it is, where, you know, he got 39 stars in the image, you know, versus Eddington's 10,000. You know, and he thinks that's a superior experiment because the amateur says so. You know, not because any fact says so. I mean, a tiny telescope, like, you know, Eddington's experiment, you know, telescope was 12-inch lens, 12 feet long. I mean, huge telescope. You know, not for no reason. It was built the way it was, and it was clunky, and they had to climb it up mountains and all this kind of shit. It was really inconvenient, you know, to have such a telescope. But the whole point is the whole way you eliminate all the things that are going to screw up the experiment is the longer the telescope, the better. It takes off all the little distortions that take place with the reflective telescope. So, you know, he doesn't care about the details, right? I've already made these videos over and over. I've got at least a dozen videos on that subject. And then he tells me I need to do research. No, you did. You're the one who didn't research my videos. You're the one who didn't even put the word in and see if I had made videos on the subject. It's just so ironic. So, you know, again, so they're just going to keep doing this kind of stuff. People now in the future, right, will reference, well, Stephen Bro proved. You know, did he? You know, I mean, it's just amazing. So, you know, crap becomes some kind of real thing because somebody wrote about it in an article somewhere. You know, not because it was really demonstrated to be realistic experiment, any better than the original crap experiment. No, they'll just say, we validated it and we repeated it. Yeah, well, you know, less telescope, so what? And we didn't take advantage of the 400 times better resolution from space. And then he actually ended the comment with said, haven't you ever heard of the Hubble telescope? So he doesn't even know that they've never done it with the Hubble telescope because they're afraid the Hubble telescope will go blind. You know, or some kind of crap like that. I mean, Pyrrho made this argument. You know, where obviously they can take, you know, make precautions against that happening actually. But yes, the Hubble telescope, they won't use it to do these experiments. So, you know, but you don't need the Hubble telescope. That's the irony. All you need is a freaking GoPro. Because of the 400 times better resolution from space, you could almost use a Flintstones monkey camera. You know, you could almost just put a monkey in a box and have him little chisel out the location of the stars. It's so easy to do from space. It's so much better resolution, and you don't need an eclipse. So any camera in space could do the Eddington experiment with technically superior technology. Any camera would do. They could take one, on the space shuttle and look out the window and do it with higher resolution than Eddington could get. These are just facts. And so it's acceptable to you that even though that's the truth, it's never been done. That's good science. That's science on the move. That's science showing how to do it right. Obviously, I think that's really reason to be skeptical. Reason for doubt. Alright. So this was just a horrible video. Blah, 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 blah. A waste of time. Blah, 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 blah. Nothing really sensible said, except he's got stock in Costco. He's trying to sell their shit, crap, overpriced shit. Ugh. I should just buy the crap, right, to do a review of how shitty and cheap it all is. How insanely overpriced this piece of shit kit is. That they snooker dumb universities into buying. Who else buys this crap, right? But, some stupid high school. Ugh. Anyway, alright, so I think that's, lots of stuff to do. So I think the first point is just to make videos specifically on the paradoxes. First a video just on the history, just to, make them as brief as possible without, really compromising reasonable conversation. And then plead for somebody to actually play the video, acknowledge the points made in the video, and respond to them with some sort of answer. Isn't it a bit crazy for you to tell me that the physics theory, the conventional physics, believes in the 1.4 kinetic energy theory when I've never heard of it and I can't find any references to it? I mean, how can I argue a theory that doesn't have any references? Except Pyrrho says so. Alright. So, till the next time and such. This is just too fucking... I had no expectation that this argument would be this fucking ludicrous. Again, I really did have a really low opinion of human beings, but I didn't realize that these smart people are just as bad as they can be. They're just so dishonest. Disgusting. So, till the next time and such and so forth and whatnot. This has been a Draft Physics video presentation and such.